Overcoming addiction. Once you can stop, but you don't want to, and when you want to stop, but you cannot, that's addiction. In this life, we find ourselves prisoners to the things that control us, even though deep down we want to set ourselves free or to be set free from their control. There is a saying that goes, "The road to hell is paved with good intentions." And this is true about the road to addiction. The road to addiction starts with fun, entertainment, pleasure, leisure, and more. But later, fun, entertainment, pleasure, and leisure turn into frustration, guilt, pain, health problems, or even more worse, leading to death. At the start of the journey, we think we are the masters and the substances are slaves. But during the course, we later come to realize the master became a slave and the slave turned to be the master. In other words, the one who was controlling is now controlled. Every addiction, no matter what it is the result of trying to escape a need by going in the direction of that need that is currently not being met. Simply said, bad habits arise when we serve a need. In other words, bad habits arise because they serve a need that needs to be filled. In simple terms, addiction is seeking pleasure by taking shortcuts, seeking happiness by taking shortcuts, and the process goes on and on and on. Addiction is seeking temporary pleasures for immediate gratification. Remember, shortcuts are not safe. What is addiction? According to science and other researchers, they define addiction as a disease or a disorder. However, according to me and the research that I did, this is how I define addiction. Addiction is the process of seeking temporary pleasure to satisfy immediate gratification. Who is an addict? An addict is a person trapped in the trap of seeking temporary pleasures to satisfy immediate gratification. Or an addict is a slave to immediate gratification through seeking temporary pleasures. Being an addict to the right thing is okay, but being an addict to the wrong thing is not okay. For example, one can be an addict to happiness, or he can seek happiness through serving others or volunteering, which is okay, while another can be an addict to happiness or seeks happiness through taking drugs, substances, which is not okay, starting with his or her health. Please remember this. The journey to addiction starts with seeking a need by taking a wrong route. Instead of taking the hard way, which is safe and necessary, one chooses to take the way that is easy and unsafe. Addiction is a wide gate. Many roads lead to addiction, only one leads out. In the end, addiction leads to destruction. Let me clarify here. In the end, harmful addiction leads to destruction. Causes of addiction. The first cause is problems and challenges. When faced with challenges like failure, relationship problems, job loss, and more, some people tend to turn substances or habits as a way to escape reality, or as a way to escape what is happening. But the truth is, we don't overcome problems by escaping them, but by overcoming them. Overcoming and escaping are two different things. The second cause of addiction is the environment. How we think, behave, and practice is largely determined by the environment that surrounds us. A negative environment will produce negative results. A positive environment will produce positive results. By environments, we mean friends, neighborhood, family, and many more, including those that surround us. The third cause of addiction is the easy way. Taking the easy way, those who desire to gain without pain or paying the price, earning without working, are likely to fall into the addiction trap of gambling. The reality of life is, to reap, you must sow, and the process of sowing requires hard work. The fourth cause of addiction is the narrow mind. Many people who become addicts don't take time to weigh the advantages and the disadvantages of a substance or behavior on their lives and health. They focus on the pleasure part. They are narrow-minded, focusing on the small picture, not the big picture. Everything under the sun has advantages and disadvantages. Therefore, for you to make a decision, any decision, first find out the cost of your decision by weighing the advantages over the disadvantages. Types of addiction. There are two types of addiction. The first one is substance addiction. This is a type of addiction where an addict is addicted to a particular kind of matter with uniform properties, like alcohol, cocaine, drugs, and many more. The second type of addiction is called behavior addiction. An addict is addicted to a certain action that he does continuously, like watching porn, gambling, adultery, fornication, masturbation, and many more. Addiction is normal and neutral, but what you are addicted to is what matters. One can be addicted to substances and behaviors that can improve or transform his life, like reading books, volunteering, praying, and many more, while the other can be addicted to substances and behaviors that decrease and distort his life, like taking drugs, fornication, adultery, and many more. If you feel guilt, or deep down you know what you're doing is wrong, if you wish to quit one day or someday, if you want or if you know that it is harmful to your life, health-wise, mental-wise, and spiritual-wise, then that is an indication that you are addicted to the wrong thing. Therefore, when you are solving a problem, it is important to understand the difference between a cause and a symptom. 1. A symptom is an indication that there is a problem, but it is not by itself a cause or a problem. The second, a root cause or a cause. This is the real reason for the occurrence of the problem. Addiction is not a root cause. It's a symptom of something else. Therefore, instead of trying to address the symptom, we should try to get the underlying root cause that creates harmful addiction. And that's what we are going to look about, the root causes of addiction. The first root cause of addiction is disobedience. With plenty of opportunities to access information today, it makes ignorance not the reason for failure, but disobedience, which is willful rejection, as the reason for failure. Most people today know things in their heads, but their actions tell a different story. They know what to do, but they don't do what they know. In this age, most people know whether what they are doing is right or wrong. Even though others may not know, they have the opportunity to know before they do or take action. What is disobedience? Disobedience is the act of choosing the wrong over the right that you know. To him that knows to do good and does not do it, to him it is sin. A paraphrase, disobedience. This is in James chapter 4 verse 17. This is what Jesus says, that a servant who knows the will of his master but does not get ready to follow his instructions will be severely punished. The one who unknowingly does things worthy of stripes or punishment will be lightly punished. That is Luke chapter 12 verse 47 to 48. Based on that statement, the one who knew and him who never knew, they will all receive punishments. A person who is unaware of the law cannot escape the consequences for violating the law just because he was unaware of the law. Ignorance is not an excuse, and neglecting is not accepted. That's why when you try to look deep down the root causes of addiction, disobedience is one of them. Don't blame anything or anyone for the consequences of your action. It was your choice to disobey the fundamental truth, which is the Word of God. There is a way that seems right to man, but in the end it leads to destruction. Only God knows what is good and what is wrong. Please don't rely on your own understanding and be willing to obey. The second root cause of addiction is the lust of the flesh. The worst and closest enemy of man is his own flesh. The worst enemies are not those from the outside, but from the inside. The flesh is composed of two components, the natural and the spiritual. The natural part of the flesh is needed to allow us to function on earth, like hands to hold and work, legs to walk, and eyes to see. The spiritual part is the natural part of man, but there is a spiritual power or nature that dominates or rules within it. By default, the spiritual power behind is controlled by the wicked one. Why? Because through the first man, Adam, he disobeyed the words or the commands of his creator, God, making himself a slave to the one he obeyed, the wicked one, the devil, also known as Satan. Through one man, sin came into the world. Our desires, or our human desires in themselves, are not evil. God created us and gave us thoughts, desires, feelings, imaginations, and the power to make decisions. These gifts in themselves are not evil. However, if the spiritual power and intention behind this gift is controlled by the wicked spirits, they turn them perverse, that leads to evil thoughts, wickedness, or wickedness like adultery, fornication, homosexuality, and other related sins, and those are the lusts of the flesh. Lust and desire, the two are completely different. Desire is natural and neutral, while lust is desire gone wrong. Lust is sin using our desires against their original and intended purpose. Lust comes with an overwhelming power and is almost irresistible, but not limited to sexual desires. When our hearts are lusting after something, it almost feels that if we don't get what we desire, we will cease to exist. Through the lust of the flesh, we seek happiness, pleasure, entertainment, and the desires of our hearts in the way that can produce harmful results. For example, seeking happiness and pleasure through taking drugs, seeking happiness and pleasure through fornication and adultery. When people do what is right in their own eyes, rather than to submit to the central authority, who is God, the end is destruction. Any factor that is not in constant harmony with the purpose of God cannot give a lasting sense of peace, fulfillment, abundant living, and purpose in life. Are we going to submit to God or to our desires and the pleasures of the world? Remember, there is no satisfaction outside God's will. And Jesus is the only way, the truth, and the life. For anyone who wants or that wants to come to the Father, the creator of everything, Jesus is the only way for him to go through. The third root cause of addiction is the lust of the eyes. The lust of the eyes. No matter how much we see, we are never satisfied. No matter how much we hear, we are never content. Everything is worrisome beyond description. The world is full of eye candies, kings and queens who blind our eyes and steal our dreams. Materials which come with promises of happiness and fulfillment. The lust of the eyes describes someone who is captivated by an outward show of materialism, like see a new car, have it or desire to have it, see a beautiful woman or man, sleep with him or her, or desire to sleep with him or her. These things, or those things, the cars, people, materials, in themselves are not sin, but the uncontrolled desire to have them can either be sinful or lead to sin. Uncontrolled desire to achieving anything outside God's will and purpose for your life is sinful. In this life, we will find or we will always have temptations because the odds are against us doing what is good and right. The road to addiction is wide and easy, and everyone goes through it. The road to life is narrow and hard, and very few find it, as stated by Jesus Christ. Blessed is the man who endures temptations, for when he has been approved, he will receive the crown of life which the Lord has promised to those who love him. In Matthew chapter 6 verse 22, Jesus asserts that the eye is the lamp of the body. Therefore, be watchful of what you see, because Satan uses visual images or the eyes as one avenue of temptation. He uses the same tactic on Eve and even on Jesus. But for Jesus, he did not succumb to the lust of the eyes or any desires of the flesh, and that's how he defeated Satan. The fourth root cause of addiction is the pride of life. The pride of life expresses the desires or the desire for recognition, applause, status, and advantage in life. Everything we desire to have, to enjoy, or to pride ourselves upon, this is the pride of life. This includes ungodly gratification for fleshly appetites or mental satisfaction, spirit body satisfaction, and all other related satisfaction. Therefore, the root causes of any form of addiction starts from the above mentioned causes, which are the desires of the flesh, the lust of the eyes, the pride of life, and disobedience. Any form of addiction starts with the spiritual powers or starts with the spiritual power and intentions behind man's desires, thoughts, feelings, imaginations, and the power to make decisions. I repeat, any form of addiction starts with spiritual powers and intentions behind man's desires, thoughts, feelings, and the power to make decisions. Wicked spirits and intentions produce harmful addiction, which can lead to destruction of an individual. Righteous spirit and intention produce productive addiction, which can lead to real happiness, satisfaction, and eternal life if possible. How to overcome any form of addiction. In this category, we are going to talk about how to overcome any form of addiction which is harmful. Before we look on how to overcome addiction, I am going to share with you the key to transforming your life. But before we go ahead, I would like to explain this. How do you know this addiction is harmful? If you feel guilt, frustration, unhappy, or what you're doing you know it's wrong, that's an indication that what you're doing is wrong. What you're addicted to is wrong. The key is to transforming your life. The key to transforming your life. Some individuals have the desire deep inside them to do better, to quit what they are doing at the current moment, to be a better version of themselves. However, the attempts they try to take to change themselves often lead them back to where they were, doing the old things. Changing location, dressing code, job, society or environment, or any other form of change without internal change, which includes spiritual and mental transformation, only changes circumstances where we continue to do our old habits. If a book falls off the table, it cannot go back to its original position by itself. There is a saying that goes, you cannot solve a problem at the same level it was created. And this is true to personal transformation as well. Without external support, man cannot change himself. All the self-based concepts like self-belief, self-confidence, and others in the current generation which are introduced, they produce nothing apart from frustration and restriction to one's self. Based on the information I have shared, you can now understand why Jesus came. We are like a book that fell off the table, and Jesus came to put it back to its original position. The key to personal transformation is only one: Jesus. Jesus is the only master key that unlocks all the mysteries, all the mysterious doors of life. Without mental and spiritual transformation or renewal, you are the same old person doing the same old things but in a different condition or state. According to the message of Jesus, mental transformation and spiritual transformation or renewal is more important and the basic keys to personal transformation than any other form of physical transformation. What you do, how you behave, is determined by who you are deep inside you. Even though Jesus is the key to unlock all the mysteries, you must know your part and do it. You should know and separate or be able to differentiate God's responsibility from your responsibility. God not only wants to work for us, but also to work with us. If you look into the Bible, it is full of the promises of God to man. However, if you try to notice these promises, they have conditions attached to them. For example, for God so loved the world that he gave his only Son, that whosoever believes in him should not perish but have an everlasting life. If you do your part, which is to believe in the Son of God, then the promise of God, which is everlasting life, is granted. The condition is believing in Jesus, and the result of fulfilling that condition, or the reward, is everlasting life. And so it is with personal transformation. When God says, When someone wicked turns away from his wickedness that he has committed and begins to do what is just and righteous, he will preserve his own life. Ezekiel chapter 18 verse 27 to 30. We all know what we should do, at least most of us, and yet we don't do what we know. If you change what you do, the results will change, but it all starts within you. The key to personal transformation starts with knowing your part, that which is required of you, and then what is beyond your control, leave it to God. That is His part. Therefore, to do what you can and the best you can. What is beyond your ability, leave it to God, and He will take care of it. The following are some of the principles or keys that are required of you during the process of personal transformation. The first one is know your limits. Let me use a simple illustration to explain this. A body is one system with very many systems that make one big system. Each system has different parts with different functions. For example, in the circulatory system, which is the movement of blood through the body, it has very many parts, like the heart, the veins, the arteries, the blood cells, and many more. All these different parts have different functions, and they are assigned to, or they are assigned for, a different purpose. Let me repeat. All these different parts have different functions that they are assigned to or designed for. The purpose of the heart is to pump blood, no more, no less. The saddest part or the tragedy of life is that for man, we are the only creatures that do not know their purpose for existence. We try explaining things, experimenting things in order to discover our origin and our purpose. Many theories have been developed that define the origin and the purpose of man. For the years I have spent on earth, I have come to learn that nothing comes into existence without a maker, and nothing is made without a purpose. Based on this principle, man was created and created for a purpose. I repeat, man was created and created for a purpose. The key to knowing your limits is to answer the three basic questions, or the basic questions of existence. I call them the 3 W's. 1. Where am I from? What's the origin? Where's your origin? The second one is where? Why am I here? What's the reason for being here? Your purpose. The third one is what can I do? Without answering the above questions, you will never know your limits. Limits help you know what is within your ability to do and what is beyond your ability. The Bible has all answers to the above questions and even more. Please remember, once a book falls off the table, it cannot take itself back to the original position. Therefore, know what you can do and what you cannot do, but you cannot change yourself without external support or external help. The second one, or the second key required of you, is be willing to change. What is change? Many people know the word change, but the average people cannot define change. Change is the general transition of something or anything from one phase or state or condition to another. I repeat, change is the general transition of something or anything from one phase, state, or condition to another. In other words, change is from to. I repeat, from to. Change is hard because people overvalue what they have and they underestimate what they might get. Unless you are prepared to give up something valuable, you will never be able to truly change at all, because you will be controlled by the things that you never give up. Let me repeat this one more time. Change is hard because people overvalue what they have and they underestimate what they might get. Unless you are prepared to give up something valuable, you will never be able to truly change at all, because you will be controlled by the things that you never give up. Let me illustrate it. A certain man went to Jesus and asked him, "What can I do to have an everlasting life?" Jesus told him what he should do. In other words, obey the 10 commandments. And the man's response to Jesus was, "I have kept the commands. Am I still lacking?" Then Jesus replied, "If you want to be perfect or complete, go sell your belongings and give to the poor, and you'll have treasures in heaven, and come be my follower." When the man heard this, he went away grieved, for he had very many possessions. I repeat, when the man heard this, he went away grieved, for he had many possessions. Even though Jesus and this man were talking about a different topic, but there is a lot of lessons attached to this conversation. 1. The man wanted everlasting life so bad, but he was not willing to pay the full price after Jesus told him. And so it is true in our current days. Many people want to change their lives, but they are not willing to pay the price for change. I repeat, many people want to change their lives, but they are not willing to pay the price for change. It is unreasonable to think you can earn rewards without being willing to pay their true price. If you really want to achieve something, you have to be willing to pay the price. You cannot change unless you are willing to change. If you are willing to change, then you must endure the process of change. The third principle required of you is be willing to persist. The current state defines who we are. It may not be working, but it is familiar and comfortable because we know what to expect. In other words, we are used to our daily conduct, which turns to be normal or turns into normal. When you start the process of change, it affects you in ways you did not expect. For example, you view things, your friends, and groups you associate with, your actions, your response towards these things start to change, and many more. Let me repeat. When you start the process of change, it affects you in ways you did not expect. For example, the way you view things change. Your friends and groups you associate with, your actions, your response towards these things start to change, and many more. The whole discomfort and hardships at the starting point of change may force you to quit or abandon so that you return back to the comfort zone or to the previous life. An example is from the story of the Israelites. When the Israelites were in Egypt as slaves, they prayed to God so that He can deliver them from the oppression of the Egyptians. When God heard their prayers, He sent His servant Moses to rescue them. God, through Moses, rescued the Israelites from Egypt and its oppression. However, on the way towards the promised land, the Israelites started complaining. They started comparing the past with the present. To cut the story short, they wanted freedom, but were not willing to pay for freedom. They wanted change, but they were not willing to pay the price for change. Therefore, you need to be clear about the reason why you are changing and have value-based goals to support your change, because the journey to change is not easy. All the Israelites who desired freedom never reached the promised land. God raised a new generation. In other words, the first generation desired, but it failed. And God raised up a second generation. Some people want to change for the sake of change. They don't know, or they don't put into consideration of changing from what to what, from where to where. And the most important question, why are they changing? If your approach is undirected and not focused, the results of your action will be the opposite of your desires. You may end up getting what you did not expect, or nothing at all, but a wastage of time and energy. What is the process of change, or the process of change? After you have put into consideration the above 3 key points on God, then let's look at the process of change. But first, let's review the 3 keys that are required of you. 1. Know your limit. In the process of change, there are 2 people involved, God and you. Without God, there is no true change. I repeat, without God, there is no true change. The second one is be willing to change. Desiring to change is not enough. You must be willing, or you must pay the price of change. Remember, only those who endure to the end deserve the crown of victory, just as He said, Jesus Christ. The third one is be willing to persist. The journey to change is not easy. You need to be clear about why you are changing and have value-based goals, for they will help you keep you on the road. So, the process of change. The process of change comes in 3 stages: the past, the present, and the future. The past, this is how it was. The present, this is how it is. The future, this is how it will be, or it is going to be. To understand the process of change, we are going to use various examples so that we can understand change. First, we are going to look at the past, how it was. The wise person learns from another man's mistake. The wiser person learns from another man's success. But the wisest of all learns from both the mistakes and the success of other men. You don't have time to discover everything that might be relevant or all that needs to be known in life. That's why it's better to learn from another man's experience. Why is the past important? The past is the standing ground for how it was, which helps us to determine where the journey has reached. Therefore, in the process of change, in the process of change, where we have reached and where we are going is determined by the past. When you look at the past of the Israelites, they desired freedom, they desired change in the past, but before the past, they were free from the oppression of the Israelites, of the Egyptians. But now, in the current generation, or at the current state, they felt that they were oppressed, so they desired freedom. Life is consisting of the three things: the past, the present, and the future. It's hard to explain this because in every process it goes there. But let me continue to explain more. In human nature, we are born innocent. No one is born an addict. No one is born a slave. No one is born with any habit or knowing anything. That is our past. Now, we learn to do things through our journey of experience in life. Through learning and experiencing, we start separating the wrong from the right, which is the present. Knowing what is good and what is wrong is the starting point to determine where we are going, which will be the future. I repeat, knowing what is good and what is wrong is the starting point to determine where we are going, which is the future. According to Jesus, the key to freedom is truth. He said, "If you remain in my word, you are really my disciples, and you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free." Please note and put this into consideration. The purpose of this conversation was different, but there is a lot of lessons we can learn from this conversation. 1. He said, "You will know the truth, and not if you speak the truth." Knowing and speaking the truth are different things. Many people in the current generation say, if you speak the truth will set you free. I'm not against this, but this is not what Jesus meant. Jesus said, if you know the truth, know means knowledge. If you know about the truth, and then the truth will set you free. The second, he said, the truth will set you free. Note, the truth is freedom. The truth is not freedom in itself, but it leads or it sets you free, leading you to the true source of freedom. In other words, when you know the truth sets you free to pursue freedom or anything that you desire. Therefore, the truth is not an end in itself. It is always a means to an end. You need the truth in order to deal with things as they are and get predictable results from them. I repeat, you need the truth in order to deal with things as they are and get predictable results from them. If you know what you're doing is wrong, and the consequences will be so, because you know. If you know what you're doing is good, the results will be likewise, because you know. When you know the truth, it helps making the decisions easier. Truth is information that leads to predictable results. If you know alcohol is harmful, if they say smoking and drugs is harmful, if they say sexual immorality is harmful and it has bad consequences, that is the advantages or the advantage of truth. It helps you to know if this is harmful, then it will produce negative results or harmful consequences. And so it is. Remember, God gave you the ability to make your own decisions. Whether you do what is wrong or right, it is all determined by the decisions you make based on the knowledge you know about something. The ability to make decisions comes with the ability to take full responsibility or consequences of the decisions you make. I repeat, the ability to make decisions comes with the ability to take full responsibility for the consequences of your decisions you made or the decisions you make. The second process of change is the present. What are you doing now? What habits or actions are you doing at this time? Are they good or bad? Is it good or bad? Is there any habit or action that you would like to stop doing? A habit is a result of the actions we do repeatedly. What steps are you taking to break or create the person or the habits you desire? What steps are you taking to break or create the person or habits you desire? The third process of change is the future. A clear vision about who you want to be, what you want to do, is the starting point to achieving your desire and passion in the future. What you do now will determine who you will be in the future. And who you will be in the future is totally depends on what you do now. If you want a clear and bright future, you will be willing to pay the full price, the price of change. As we have reviewed in all the previous sessions, that knowledge sets you free, and knowledge helps you to know the consequences of your actions. Therefore, the future or the process of change comes in three forms: the past, which is how it was; the present, how it is; and the future, how it will be. But all this depends on the decisions you make. Overcoming addiction. I am going to share with you some principles, laws, or ideas that will help you overcome addiction. The first one is the law of foundation. 1. Nothing comes into existence without a maker or a creator. Everything on earth is either created or made. This means it comes from something. There is a difference between creating and making. To create means to form something from nothing. To make means to form something from the something or from something that already exists. Man is the only creature that was both made and created. According to the Bible, the flesh was formed from dirt and soil, and the spirit
was created in form of the creator. Apple makes or produces iPhones and other Apple products. Toyota makes and produces Toyota products. Everything has a source, either made by someone or by something. Who created or made you? 2. Nothing is created or made without a purpose, and anything is created or made for a purpose. Nothing comes into existence without a purpose. Cars are made for the purpose of transportation, not driving. Driving is the method of operating or using. TVs, phones, and radios are made for the purpose of communication, not listening, watching, making calls, or even going to the internet. This is the mode of operating. Some people tend to confuse or misuse the purpose of a product with the method of use or operating. For example, you can ask someone what is the purpose of the car, and he can tell you for driving, and yet the purpose of the car is for transportation, and the method of use or operating is driving. You cannot transport something unless you drive it. So, the purpose and the method of use, the two are completely different. Man can tell clearly the purpose of any product or creature apart from himself. We know more about others and little about ourselves. The third one is no one knows a product like its maker. No one knows iPhones and Apple products like Apple iPods and all other products like Apple. No one knows Toyota products like Toyota. No one can fix a product like its maker or the agent authorized by the maker. There is a big difference between an authorized agent and the unauthorized agent. An authorized agent means he is allowed by the maker or the producer of a certain product to produce it or to fix it. So, how are the above 3 principles of the law of the foundation important to overcoming addiction? 1. From the above 3 principles, a product cannot fix itself. A car cannot fix itself. That means you cannot fix yourself. The reason why life is confusing to some people is because they are confused. They don't know who they are. They don't know the purpose of their existence. They don't know, or they are not sure why or where they come from and where they are going. And the one thing that leads to distraction is not being clear about the origin. Life is confusing only to those who are confused. One of the best ways to overcome addiction is found in the principles or the laws of foundation. 1. Know who you are and where you're from. 2. Know what is expected from you, and this will help you separate what is necessary from the unnecessary, what is useful from what is harmful, what is productive and what is not productive. In other words, when you know the principles of the law of foundation, This gives you a clear definition of what you will do and what you will not do. This is what the Lord God says. Look, all souls belong to me. As the soul of the Father, so also the soul of the Son. To me they belong. The soul who sins is the one who will die. That is Ezekiel chapter 18 verse 4. So I would like to paraphrase that verse. This is what the Lord God says. Any human being, both the parent and the children, belong to me because I created them. Anyone that disobeys my commands and principles will perish. Let's say I'm going to use the example of Toyota and Toyota products. Toyota produces cars, and if you operate a car or use a car contradicting the principles and the laws set by the manufacturer, that car will not serve long or will not live the lifespan as expected or designed by the manufacturer. Car engines are designed to use oil and they have a specific period. But if you use water instead of oil, if that's what you want, then that car, the engine will wear out or it will be destroyed, because what you want is not what the manufacturer commanded or designed the car engine to work upon. And so it is with life. If we do what contradicts with the life or what the Creator designed for us to do or work upon, surely we shall perish. The second one is now. He says, now, if someone wicked turns away from all the sins he has committed and keeps my statutes and does what is just and righteous, he will surely keep living. He will not die. Still in Ezekiel chapter 18. I would like to paraphrase also this one. If anyone walks according to the standards and the principles set by the Creator God, he or she will not perish or be destroyed, but will preserve his life. From the life example, if you operate the car, if it is a petrol car, you use petrol gasoline or petrol fuel. If it is diesel, you use diesel. And you do everything according to the standards and the principles set by the manufacturer. That car will serve longer and you'll get the most out of it. And so it is with life. If we live according to the standards and the decisions and the principles set by the manufacturer or the designer of life or the Creator, who is God, then he surely tells us that we will preserve our life. We will not perish. The second principle that will help you overcome addiction is the principle of replacement. 1. You cannot just stop the old life and start the new one. You replace what already exists. I repeat, you cannot just stop the old life and start the new one. You replace what already exists. God is faithful. He will never allow anything to be taken away from you if He's not planning to give you something better. When you look in all the stories of the Bible, and this is true, that God is faithful. He will never allow anything to be taken away from you if He is not planning to give you something better. Look at the story of Job. Look at the story of Prophet Elijah and the woman. Look at the life of Jesus Christ and the disciples he chose. In other words, if he is going to take away something from you, he is planning to give you something better. Habits can either make you or break you. Bad habits will break you, destroy you. But good habits will build you and make you a better person. One of the fundamental laws of the universe, which is the law of opposite, states that there are pairs of opposites and nothing operates except by swallowing up the other. God designed or created everything in pairs. The existence or identity of one part depends on the coexistence of the other part. For example, good and evil, light and darkness, man and woman, heaven and earth, land and water, and so many more. In other words, everything that God created comes in pairs, and the existence of one or the identity of one part depends on the coexistence of the other part. How can there be light if there is no darkness? Darkness gives meaning to light, or it helps you understand light. So, if your actions are not good, then they are either bad or evil. They are not even either. They are bad or evil. If your actions are not building, then they are destroying. That's why the law of replacement is important. Remember, you cannot just stop old life. This is the law of replacement, and start a new one. You have or you replace what already exists. In other words, by the law of replacement, you replace bad habits, destructive habits, with building habits or good habits. The law of opposite is the root or the foundation of decision making. Pairs is the source of conflict and pain and sacrifice. You cannot be both good and bad. In other words, the law of opposite is the root foundation of decision making. Is the root foundation of making the choice to either fall under good or evil, to do what is right or to do what is wrong, to do what is constructive or to do what is destructive. The law of opposite gives you the power to make, or is the root foundation of decision making. Jesus said, a tree is determined by its fruit. I would like to paraphrase this, that a good tree bears good fruits and a bad tree bears bad fruits. Anyone who tries to do both according to Jesus, he refers to him as a lukewarm, neither cold nor hot, neither good nor bad, they may say. He belongs nowhere. He's neither positive or negative, neutral. For more reference, please read, if you would like to know more, that is Luke chapter 6, 43 to 45, and Revelation chapter 3, verse 15 to 16. Your success to overcoming addiction or any other form of addiction requires replacing the opposite of your actions. Let me repeat one more time. Your success to overcoming addiction or any other form of addiction requires replacing the opposite of your actions. Replacing things or actions that are useless and not helping with those that are useful and helpful. You have to be willing to change the foundation to create long-term results like happiness, joy, peace, and more. Changing the foundation requires the knowledge about the law of opposite. Remember, the law of opposite states that the law of opposite states that there are pairs of opposites and nothing operates except by swallowing up the other. In other words, God created things in pairs. You are either under the kingdom of light or the kingdom of darkness, under the law of pairs. So, areas to replace depending on the side that you choose to follow. I repeat, areas to replace depend on the side that you choose to follow. And these are the areas that you need to replace. The spiritual environment. You are either under the kingdom of light or the kingdom of darkness. The second one is the physical environment. It is either constructive or destructive. The mental environment. You are either under ignorance or knowledge. People. You are either with those who are supporting or those who are opposing. Belief systems, positive or negative. Goals. You either have permanent goals or temporary goals. Identity. It's either your original identity or the fake one. You choose to take another person's identity and neglect your own. So those 7 areas are the areas that you need to replace depending on the side that you choose to follow. I'm going to repeat them for the last time. The spiritual environment, these are the areas that you need to change. 1, the spiritual environment, the physical environment, the mental environment, people, beliefs, goals, and identity. One of the best book that will guide you or help you to answer the above questions or know more about the areas that you need to replace and more about them is the book called Basic Instructions Before Leaving Earth, or Basic Instructional Book for Living Every Day, which this book is mostly known as the Bible. According to research from trusted resources like Wikipedia, World Book of Genius Records, or I don't know the best form, is it World Book of Genius Records or World Genius Book of Records, and more other sites, the Bible is the world's most sold and most read book with billions of copies. And the Bible has more and more world records, to mention a few. Because of those records, the Bible is in position to have everything that you seek. The third principle that will help you overcome addiction is the principle or the law of change. Discomfort, shame, guilt, regret, desire to quit. These are indications that whatever action you are doing is wrong. and needs to be changed. These indications or signs help you realize that there is still time to make new choices and have new experiences. In other words, guilt after doing something, feeling regret, desiring to quit, feeling shame. These are indications that what you've done or what you are going to do is wrong. These indications help you to realize that there is still time to make new changes and have new experiences. Ignoring these indications gives room for the law of pairs to apply. The law of pairs states that there are two pairs of opposites and nothing operates except by swallowing up the other. If you ignore the indications that what you're doing is wrong, then wrong will swallow up good, and therefore by doing that, or by doing what is wrong, wrong will become normal. I repeat, therefore doing what is wrong will become normal. Wrong actions produce wrong results, even though they are covered with good intentions. Example, one takes a bribe or corruption in order to earn extra or more. Another one goes to steal in order to earn some money. But remember, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Comfort is the enemy of change. And when we are too comfortable with our present situation, we often don't initiate change, or we resist the attempt to make change. There is a saying that goes, if you don't change, change will change you. And this is true. If you don't change your actions, the consequences of your actions will change you, if you are lucky and you get that chance. Change can be defined differently according to different states and conditions. However, the general definition of change is the general transition of something or anything from one phase or state to another condition. Or, let me repeat it. Change is the general transition of something or anything from one phase or state to another condition or to another form. With personal transformation and development, change occurs as a process, not as an event. Change does not occur instantly because there was an announcement, motivation, inspiration, or training program. We can make changes in any areas or in any area of our life at any time we choose. Since change in personal transformation and development is a process, not an event, making small changes is the first step to making larger changes or bigger changes in any area of our life. The law of change states that everything is in the process of becoming something else. In other words, change happens everywhere with everyone and happens constantly. Change is inevitable. In other words, you cannot avoid change. If everything is always changing and change is inevitable, why is change so hard to embrace? Change is hard to embrace, or change is hard because people overvalue what they have and they underestimate what they might get. Unless you are prepared to give up something valuable, you will never be able to truly change at all, because you'll be controlled by the things that you never give up. Repeat one more time for clarification. Change is hard because people overvalue what they have and they underestimate what they might get or what they would get. Unless you are prepared to give up something valuable, you will never be able to truly change at all, because you will be controlled by the things that you never give up. You cannot change unless you are willing to change. If you are willing to change, then you must endure the process of change. Repeat one more time. You cannot change unless you are willing to change. If you are willing to change, then you must endure the process of change. The three main factors that are the causes of change are: 1. Choice, 2. Chance, 3. Crisis. We are going to look at these key factors that cause change. Let's start with choice. You cannot change unless you make the decision to change. Changing by choice allows you to be proactive in directing and choosing your destiny, rather than just letting things happen to you. Change happens everywhere and with everyone, but how we respond to it is the choice we make. We usually don't change when things are going well. If we don't initiate change, change will initiate it for us, or life will initiate it for us. There is a saying that if you don't change, change will change you. So, the first cause of change is when you decide to change, when you make the choice to decide, when you make the choice to change. The second cause of change is chance or miracle. Chance is the word we use when we don't know or understand why something has happened to us. 90% of the things that happen to us are either based on actions and the results of those actions. In other words, the law of cause and effect, though it's hard to recognize it sometimes. 10% or less happens by pure chance or miracle. In other words, 90% of the things that happen to us, they are related to what we do or what we take action to do. And 10% happen by pure miracle. Jesus said it this way: ask and you shall be given. Seek, you will find. Knock and the door shall be opened. In simple terms, if you don't do any of the above, you will not receive any of the above. If you don't ask, you will not be given. If you don't seek, you will not find. And if you don't knock, the door shall not be open. Based on that statement, we realize that 90% of what happens to us is determined by what we do, and 10% what happens to us happens by pure chance or miracle. Let me repeat. 90% is determined by what we do, and 10% happens by pure chance or miracle. The only way to benefit from chance or miracle, or for them to work in our favor, is to do our best and take full responsibility of what is happening in our lives. And
which I can say, be prepared. Anyone who received a miracle from Jesus, they either requested or asked him, or they were in the right place at the right time. In other words, very few who received miracles from Jesus happened. To them, it was a miracle. But they were in the right place at the right time, or they either requested or asked him. Chance is like luck. In other words, chance, which is a miracle, is like luck, which is a blessing, and they both exist. But luck or chance is when an opportunity meets a prepared individual and gets most out of it. When you look at the story of the Bible and those who received the miracles from Jesus, when you look closely and clearly, they were prepared and they got most out of the chance or the miracle that Jesus did for them. The third cause of change is crisis or challenges. Everyone will experience crisis at different times in life. Even though challenges are never enjoyable, they are almost always transformational. Why? Because challenges, which are crises, force us to make changes that we would never make. For example, a lost job results in a new rewarding career. Financial ruins lead to deeper spirituality. A lost relationship leads to a happy one. In other words, when crises or challenges come, they force us to make changes that we would never make. In life, there are winners and there are losers. For winners, they will be transformed by the crisis. Let me say it this way. Some will be transformed by a crisis or a challenge, either positively or negatively, depending on the way they handle it or respond. As I conclude, I would like to summarize the key principles that will help you overcome harmful addiction. But before I go there, let me recap the 3 causes of change. One is choice. Choice is the decision you make. The second one is chance or miracle. This is when what happens, you have or you don't know what happens and you can't explain it. But anyone who wants to get most out of a chance or a miracle is the individual who is always prepared before the opportunity comes, so that when an opportunity comes, it meets a prepared individual and gets most out of it. And the third is crisis or challenges. Challenges do not come to harm us, but they come to force us to make changes that we would never make. In other words, challenges are forcefully transformational. They force us to change. So, how can one overcome harmful addiction? From the previous chapters and topics or principles that we have looked upon. Number 1, no one can fix you like the one who made you, and you cannot fix yourself. Doctors, psychologists, teachers, and all others, no one can fix you like the one who made you, because
He knows everything about you. The second one, God designed or created everything in pairs. If your actions are not good, then they are bad, but not both. A sense of guilt, discomfort, regret, shame, and many more is an indication that what you are doing is the wrong thing, or you are doing the wrong thing. You are either under the kingdom of light or the kingdom of darkness, but not both. The third one, if you continuously ignore the indications that what you are doing is wrong, then wrong, which is evil, will swallow up good, which is right. And because of that, because of doing what is wrong or evil, it will become normal. Remember, wrong or evil leads to destruction. The next one is you cannot change unless you make the decision to change and take the steps needed. To create long-term results like happiness, success, joy, peace, and more, you have to be willing to change the foundation. Changing the foundation requires the knowledge about the law of opposite. Based on the law of pair or the law of opposite, there are only two foundations. You are either under the kingdom of light or the kingdom of darkness, not both. A tree is determined by the fruits it bears, and man is determined by the actions he takes, especially those done in private or secret. Without spiritual and mental transformation, there is no true change. I repeat, without spiritual and mental transformation, there is no true change. Lastly, you cannot fix yourself, and if you want to change and willing to change, then you must be willing to pay the full price. Jesus is the key to personal transformation or to change. Everything starts and ends with Him. I hope you'll get most out of this program. See you next time. Thank you.